How you doing?
Good, man.
Far out.
Yeah.
So, hey, we were having a conversation earlier about preserving genetics and how tissue culture can come into play. You know, old seeds. You know how old seeds still have the life in them, but how do we get that life out of them? How do we preserve these genetics? So you were mentioning something about how tissue culture could come into play for that.
Yeah. So, you know, my understanding of it, like when I was in high school, we were taught sterile technique, and we grew mushrooms in biology class.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were done and we had kind of you know, loosely mastered sterile technique, working in front of the you know, the HEPA filter, the laminar flow hood,
Little
and
agar
with
dish.
with the petri dishes and the parafilm and the Bunsen burners and the alcohol bottle and all that stuff. You know, we kind of got a hang of it, and my teacher, who's an excellent teacher, probably, you know, one of the best teachers around, really. He said, "Oh, you know, well, you can use this for other stuff too. You can use this for plants as well." And I was like, "Oh yeah, tissue culture. I've heard of that because my dad had a cousin whose wife worked down, I think it's Half Moon Bay. There's a big orchid place down there."
All right.
And that's what she did. And so when I was a kid, she had told me, "Oh yeah, you know, you guys call cuttings clones." She goes, "I make clones. Like, I make them from nothing but tissue, like where I take a little piece of a plant and I grow it out into what we call a callus, or I think that's what they call it in that.
All right.
And then we cut it apart and we put it in. We can turn one little piece into 1,000,000 orchids."
It's like you
Putting
just need
them in test tubes in a lab. And I was like, wow, it sounded amazing to me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when my teacher told us about this, you know, I go, "Yeah, I've heard of that." I go, "But that's some crazy stuff." The lady who I know, she's like a major scientist, and it's very serious stuff. And he goes, "Yeah, but you know, we can do it here. It's the same thing. Sterile technique is all you really need. Then we need to have a different kind of light, and we need the different agar blend, which is actually, you use something different in that one. But then instead of, like with mushrooms, it's all about like sugars.
Mm-hmm.
And with plants, you know, it's like hormones, and there's like little stuff in there that behaves like an antibiotic and keeps it from getting contaminated.
So when does the light bulb go off that you can, it's like, okay, we've got some...
Yeah, so anyway, so that's where I learned that, and then that you can have this little bit. So I do some researching on it because I'm interested in it, and I have all these old seeds that I know there's viable cells inside these seeds, but the seed themselves as a mechanism, it's not in a state where it'll just pop and grow a real plant, you know?
Yeah, you attempt to germinate some of these old seeds, and
They just don't work.
no
They
chance.
get a little tail, like some of them, like a lot of times seeds that are almost really not viable, they'll crack and they'll kind of poke out a tail.
Mm-hmm.
These, though, I was able to get them to grow actually a decent little tail, but they wouldn't actually ever come out to really be a plant. So I said, all right, I'm going to stop using up any of this stock since I know it's alive, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back in storage.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wait until I can find somebody who can do the proper tissue culture, because I know that's the way to do it, you know.
How old are these seeds you have?
You know, they're not really that old. They were just not stored right. And that's what I was getting into earlier, telling you, because I wasn't on the internet. I didn't see any of this activity that was going on all over the place. So I thought the whole world now just only wanted to grow 3 clones, and nobody had an interest in seeds. And I went, well, I have stuff that I like to grow, and they've used all these I've used all these old genetics in these new strains.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's good enough, you know, because most of the things I had, to me, I considered them to just be some stuff that wasn't that special, because I thought I can locate the stock that
I'll find it again.
It all came from.
Yeah,
I'll either get the same stuff or I'll get something better, because I had these seeds that I got from people, and they're telling me it's not the good ones.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, "Oh, this is a black Affy, but it's been bred a couple times. If you get the original one, you can find different stuff in it, and from these guys. And this is you know, this is this thing that I got, but it's not the one that I meant to breed, or
You hear these
know.
stories secondhand, but meanwhile, you know firsthand that, wow, when I smoked this stuff that I pulled these seeds out of,
Yeah,
it
they're
was
really
pretty
good.
killer.
They're
All
good.
right, so I'm going to save this, you know, even though I can't germinate them now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And so I know they're good, and so but anyway, so I didn't value it as being like really valuable, like pure stock, like you would really keep as something valuable.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I'd like to get the stuff that this came from the same people, but these ones are all kind of the one-off. I didn't realize that they would wind up having nothing, and that these one-offs would be the best version available at a certain point,
or the only version
or
available.
the only version. And so I just didn't think they were just some seeds. Like, you know how you roll in a joint back in the day and you find some seeds in it and you go, oh, throw out these seeds.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll
that
grow
was-
over there. That'd be funny if there's a little sprout until
But
a bird
otherwise,
eats
it was
or
the
something, right?
trash. It was,
So
yeah,
you
the
just,
stuff.
it's the seeds. This part you don't
Can't
want.
smoke that.
Yeah. And so a lot of them that I had, it's like, yeah, I bred them and I had them, but I gave them to people and people would grow them, and you know, I put too much, I think, on what other people thought of the strains. They're like, yeah, it was good, but I'm going to try something new. And I didn't really consider that I always wanted to try something new too. And that was all that was happening. It wasn't that they weren't excellent. It was that people, it's just in people's nature to not want to still grow the
Yeah,
same thing.
novelty. Right? People like novelty, want
Yes.
something new. They want variety. Maybe you've had that killer strain. You've been smoking it, you know, for years.
Yeah.
Something else comes around, and it's like, oh wow, maybe you're getting some strain tolerance against that strain that may have just been stellar.
Yeah.
But just that newness of something else.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's different flavor. Hey, I'm feeling a little different. You know.
Yeah, and I had a thing too where like I'd grow it and I'd go, oh, this one's cool, but you know, they're not all the right kind of flavor, or these ones get mold really bad, or these ones do this, or they don't get big enough in a big pot. And that was another thing that happened to me, was the medical came in and it came down to, okay, you guys can grow 6 plants, and then you guys can grow 25 plants. And when they tell you you can do that, you go, okay, well, I want to grow as big of a plant as I can. So you
When you
take
get
all these
restricted,
old,
yeah.
pure, really neat things, and you grow them in a big pot, and you go, they don't ever get that big. They never break 3.5, 4 pounds. And then you cross them with a diesel or an OG, and all of a sudden you're getting 6 and 8 pounders. You're going, well, why would I grow the old stuff? I'm going to grow the cross. So I grow the cross and keep improving it and making it better, and it's great. And you know that it's more practical because it fits into the new paradigm of strain stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then I keep making those seeds and making those seeds, and at a certain point I go, oh, I should go back to my old stock and refresh it. Just so that I can make more crosses like these cool new ones I have.
Yeah.
And then you go to plant them and they don't come up. And you go, okay.
There goes my parent
I
stock.
missed it by like 2 years, basically, is what happened. So it's like I planted some and then I didn't breed, and they were like 10 years old, and I didn't breed them because they came up 100%. So then I'm like, okay, it's 2 years later. They were 100% when they were 10 years. Now they should at least still be 50 or 40%.
At least.
And then all of a sudden, none of them are coming up. So I'm like, okay, I know they're viable, so they're put away, and I have those genetics.
Yeah.
But you know, that's what happened, was basically now these are seeds that come from between 99 and say 2008. And so they should all still come up because they're not old enough to be old seeds, but they just weren't stored right because I didn't put the value on them that I should have, you know?
Yeah.
So I still have lots of great stuff, but some of those ones that I have, they're, honestly, I don't know of anything that's as good as those original ones.
There's some heirloom genetics out there that hopefully people are preserving the same way you have as well. You know what I mean? Because we're going to be looking for that. We're going to be mining for those genetics at some point. You know, once OG has been crossed into 80% of the strains that are available out there. Okay, because
Yeah.
everybody wants some variant of OG.
Yeah.
You know, going back to either the old land races or just old heirloom genetics that people have stashed away.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully that technology is going to come around that
Yeah.
we can start, you know, making these things viable again, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's something that's really neat, is there is people there's kind of a renaissance right now of original stuff coming back. So there's some people like Coastal Seeds is a company Also, Bodhi's doing a thing called supernatural selections.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is taking all these old, really nice land races, and he's making all these F1s. So they're true F1s. They're not like a lot of F1s that are just polyhybrids.
Yeah.
They're really F1s. So what's happening is people, I think, are going to start digging through those, and they're going to find these next new waves of stuff. And eventually, it's funny because I know people will do the same damn thing, and they'll go, oh, we found this one and now it's the dominant clone, and but
Yeah.
at the same time, as long as you have people who are thinking that way, that thinking is going to spread, because it used to be really hard to access any kind of information or access any of these characters, like the guys from Coastal or Bodhi or any of these people. And
So
now all of a sudden you can get in contact with them. You can say, hey, I want to try the whatever that is, and they'll go, oh, cool, man, I got you. And then it'll spread out, and hopefully it's not too late. And
these
that's
isolated pockets where there's some very just treasured genetics, but they've been locked away in these
Yeah.
specific places.
Yeah.
Now with a more permissive environment, we're starting to see some of this stuff come out. We might start seeing strains that we haven't either seen in decades, or just stuff we haven't seen at all, that's just been locked away in some little family vault or some
Yeah.
private cultivation.
Yeah.
And now people are feeling better about coming out with it.
Yeah.
And everyone will benefit.
For sure.
Far
Yeah.
out. Well, great.
Yeah, man.
That was a great conversation.
Yeah, dude.